Oh, okay, thank you.
So good afternoon, welcome back, Senate Education. We have Deputy Editor General Ken Gregg here with us. And we are taking a look at H461, which is our miscellaneous education bill. And I suspect, correct me if I'm wrong, you are interested in the section that has to do with the national guard.
Yes, sir.
So with that, please tell us your thoughts.
So the request is to allow through the Vermont National Guard Tuition Benefit Program, the ability for our members to take tuition out of the state of Vermont if it's for a program that is not available in Vermont. Currently, we don't have the ability to do that. Over the last few years, the bill or the program has evolved. We've been back to use a few times, asking for adjustments. And that's as the program matures, where we're learning of new opportunities. Particularly with this, we currently have either currently enrolled or interested in enrolling 5 service members that are interested in becoming physician's assistants.
That's interesting.
That program is not available in Vermont. So this would be an example of where we as a state and the Guard could benefit by helping them fund their education at an institution that could support those training requirements. In a nutshell, that's been the impetus of how we got there.
It was that particular program, the PA program, that people wanted to access.
Well, that's how it came to us.
That's how it came to
And I'm sure there might be other programs, but as you know, the inventory happens and somebody says, well, I'd really like to use this program, but it's not available to me because the only place I can go to school is in Plattsburgh, Quinnipiac in Connecticut, wherever. So there are probably other opportunities, but that I'm not directly aware of.
Senator Bueller.
Yes, so these would just be for programs that don't exist in Vermont.
That's correct.
Okay, I mean, that just makes sense.
Right.
So is this for like members of the Guard that don't live and reside in Vermont?
Oh, no, they may.
Okay.
They may. But, you know, the other piece is the program is eligible to our Vermont Guards people that are non-residents, which is about 30% of our force. But they still have a service obligation. And if it happens to be in the case of, I'll use a physician assistance program as an example, that's basically a master's level course program. So through the language, they're actually obligated to pursue employment in Vermont as part of that. That was one of the tweaks or one of the agreements.
After they're finished, they need to,
during or through the process, or at a minimum, once they've completed their degree, have pursued and gotten employment in Vermont. So that's one of the conditions of being able to use, and they sign a contract understanding that that's a stipulation to using the money for a master's program. That they have to not only meet the service commitment, but a residency commitment as well.
Senator Lewis.
A couple questions. So the service obligation for a guardsman, say they're pursuing an undergrad, they're enlisted.
Yep.
What's the service?
2 years of service for every year of school.
In the state,
For the state, for the Vermont National Guard. They have to provide 2 years of service in the Vermont National Guard for every year of school.
Okay, good. Any conflicts with the GI Bill? Well, actually, let me back up. Do guardsmen have access to the GI Bill?
Yeah, and it depends on where, like, for example, they have several tools available to them. So for example, not on the air, but on the Army side, they have federal tuition assistance, which is up to like $4,500 a year. If they've deployed, they potentially have what's called the a product of the GI Bill. And what it does is it offers them pretty much full tuition plus stipends and all that kind of stuff. So there's variables around all that. And the way the language has always been written is federal money is first money in. So that's always been the condition.
Tell us what that means, if you don't mind, just while you're.
So in other words, if the member is eligible, they haven't deployed, they don't have the, post 9/11 GI Bill, but they are eligible for federal tuition assistance. That has to be the first money in to pay the bill. So the state money is always the last money in to pay the bill.
When you say deploy, are they deploying overseas? Is it, could be a stateside deployment?
No, it's a Title 10 combat.
So it's out there.
So like all the folks that were deployed last year overseas to like multiple theaters for a year, the folks that hadn't previously deployed now have the post 9/11 GI Bill, for example.
But it wouldn't, active duty for training doesn't qualify.
No.
Because they used to have, when I was in the Guard, we had a lot of our enlisted people that went to PA school. And they actually were like a 2-year school commitment.
Mhm.
But they were, I think it was a federal program.
Yeah.
Did that go away?
Yes, a lot of those kind of programs have gone away. And even there was, the Guard doesn't have access to it, but on active duty, they have an education tuition program for time served. You get so many, it's separate than the VA stuff. This is for time served, you get so many quarters or so many semesters of school. But that's for active duty, that's not eligible to the government.
This isn't, this is something we can look into, but as a fiscal note, do you remember a cost of all this estimated cost?
So,
Tough to predict.
yeah, and I'm not expecting a high uptake
Yeah.
on this
never mind.
because Vermont has a pretty broad spectrum of
Yeah.
opportunities available. So it's gonna really, I guess what I'm saying, if somebody, there'll be some scrutiny. If a member comes to us and says, oh, I want to go to Massachusetts because they have a zoology
Yeah.
research program or whatever, we might think twice about that, but it could, but so those conversations, it's not just a carte blanche.
So there's that process where you may
Absolutely.
say, we're not going to fund that program.
How does this fit?
How does it fit?
How does it
What?
benefit the state? So the commitment
Yeah.
for the Guard is always made about its tuition is, how does it benefit the Guard
Yeah.
and the state
Right.
overall?
Okay.
So there's multiple conversations that happen. It's not just they put in a piece of paper and I sign it and they move on. So right now, I would tell you that I potentially would have 5 people
That's great.
that would take it, and that's $17,000 a year. And currently, we're under executing our current, the legislature and the governor's budget team is very, very generous to us in the sense that they've allowed us, as we grow this program, to maintain a certain baseline budget. And this falls, and the way things have been tracking lately, this falls well within the baseline budget. So we wouldn't be coming to anybody for, at this point, any new money. In fact, we have a very, I think, solid criteria where, for example, it's April, we've already done the exercise. We work with VSAC based on awards through this year. Whatever money is not going to execute this year, we come in and we turn it back into the state.
Are there Guards members that are waiting for us to do this? I mean, are they?
Well, I have, like I said, I currently have 5 either interested in
Yeah,
enrolling
okay,
or are currently in the program.
okay.
I think I have 2 currently in
Yeah.
and 3 interested in enrolling. So obviously, if this passes for a 1 July,
Yeah.
their next school year, they're
They'll be
going to be
okay.
all
They're gonna
over.
be fine.
But if we have a sense that it's going to happen, they're going to start making plans.
I would be surprised if it were not to happen.
I'm gonna,
So this would be under the control of the Adjutant General, of the state?
the way the program is now. Yes, sir. Actually, let me clarify that though. We determine eligibility of the soldiers that participate, and VSAC executes the program for us. But all they're doing is they're awarding the money and working that part of it. But we actually determine eligibility and participation and what's the right term, but that they're in good standing. We have a whole process. The commanders have to tell us they're showing up to drill. And at any point in time, they fall out of good standing. The language is very clear. They lose eligibility.
They lose eligibility, but do they have any kind of,
Oh, they have to pay
Payback.
that. Oh, yes.
to the beginning? Or for the current year?
Up, I think, to the point of their service commitment's been filled. So in other words, if they're doing a 4-year degree and, I'm going to use an extreme in their 3rd year of school, second semester, they've got a 5-year commitment with us, and they step aside and they've filled 2 years of that commitment. We're going after 3 years of it, payback, for example. Does that make sense? So it's based on how much service commitment they've paid back as to what they're required. And we go back and they get a note from VSAC saying, okay, you now owe whatever it is, $15,000, $5,000.
Yeah.
So my experiences with the GI Bill, fairly liberal use of undergrad, graduate, trades, interesting subject matter expertise in trades.
Yeah.
What's this intent? Is it all the above, or is
Yeah, actually, that was probably the major adjustment last year when we came in front of your committee and the House Committee on Education, was we included masters or advanced degrees because they weren't part of the program at the time. And again, when I say things evolve, all of a sudden we had advanced degrees available, and our people are saying, well, I want to go to PA school, but I still can't because it's not here. So that's how that evolved. But what it also enhanced, or actually clarified, is the program is eligible for certificates, credentials, and degrees. And the credentials and certificates can be up to the equivalent of 4 years at UVM. And also it's good for trade schools. I want to become a truck driver.
Yep.
I want to go to welding school, whatever. So it's very broad. In fact, what we've determined through some research is by far, in the last 4 years, Vermont has gone from having a marginal education benefit to we have the best benefit in the country.
Really?
Yes, and primarily because of 2 things. Number one, we're offering credentials and certificates in trade schools, not just degree programs. Many of them offer masters, advanced degrees, but most states, I can only think of 2 that offer in addition. Most states only offer it to their state schools, whereas in our program, a member can take up to UVM tuition to a St. Michael's or a Champlain or a private institution.
Great.
So that is not a benefit available in most
Interesting.
or almost all other states in the country. So we feel very fortunate.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah.
so the commitment? If the way the military works is you're essentially up or out, to a certain degree, you
At a point in your career.
Right. So say you're at near that point, but you submit for a program, you get accepted, you start, you're in good standing, but you don't make the next rank.
You won't make that.
You won't make that.
What I mean is if you're not at the point that you make the service commitment, if you don't have the years under contract to fulfill that commitment, we're not going to make that commitment with you.
So if say it's a graduate program, it's a 3-year program, so it's a 6-year.
You have to have at least 3 years of service. Yes, you have to have at least 6 years of service available at the time of that commitment.
But but it's always kind of there's a tension. If you get promoted, you could have another 4 years or so.
Well, up and out doesn't really happen until like the 20-year mark.
Right, that's my point.
Um,
Is it, so could you use it now? Yourself, personally?
I'm long retired, sir.
Oh, you're, okay, I thought.
I've been in the
Like,
system.
still-
I'm 64 years old.
Okay, but you get the question now.
Yeah, no, I do. And again, it's still about, all those things are looked at. If a commander is looking at, if I'm potentially not gonna be retained, I'm not gonna be provided that opportunity.
Okay.
So there's a lot of scrutiny. It's not a automatic process. We have full-time education officers and they're involved in every application.
Very good.
That was my question. You still have the education officer.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I have one,
Yeah, please.
if I can, one last question. So my experience was, instead of going to the Guard, I went into the Marine Reserve. I was the only Marine in UVM. And this benefit is, the benefit we're talking about is only a Guard benefit. It's not a military benefit.
It's not
Because you have
it's
state
not for the
control.
active duty or reserves,
Okay, very good.
because it's state money tied to the National Guard. Whereas reservists are Title 10.
You would have taken it, right? If you weren't going to
No, I went where I wanted to go.
go.
Okay, thank you.
This
I hope
is
that
very-
helps.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
All this is great information, and again, we're gonna hear from one of the sponsors of the bill, I think tomorrow.
Representative Hank.
Yeah, she's been incredibly helpful. in this
Yeah, it's
community. We
great.
passed a bunch of things last year,
Yes.
thanks to you and the
Yes.
representatives, so I feel pretty good that this will move.
Really great.
And I'm available,
I appreciate that. Are you
absolutely.
local, man?
Burlington,
Oh, brilliant. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's a little bit of a. trip.
Camp John.
Okay, all right, yeah.
We're happy to be here. We're here
Yeah,
several times a
yeah,
week.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also think we need to be working on a PA program here in Vermont.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, that'll be interesting.
Well, actually, when you talk to Representative Hango tomorrow, she'll talk to you about that.
Oh, good. Okay.
She engaged UVM, and they said the likelihood of it was very low.
I'm surprised.
A couple of things. Number one, because they'd have to commit resources to the school,
Yeah.
and plus they'd have to have the space for the labs and for everything else. So it'll be, I
Yeah,
asked
no,
her,
it'll be interesting. Yeah.
she actually, I didn't think to do it, but she actually reached out to UVM to get a sense of whether it would happen in Vermont or not, and they made it sound like it would be slim.
That's interesting.
It was only 3 or 4 years ago that the one to be established in Proctor.
I
Well-
don't either. I don't either.
Another program, for example, is dental.
Yeah.
You can't be a dentist. You can't-
I know. I
Studying to be a
need these
dentist now.
things in a
Yes,
big
right.
way, desperately, yeah.
Thanks for coming in.
No, thank
Great
you
to
for
see you.
having
Have a
me.
safe drive back.
Sorry, I missed the
Oh, no.
testimony. The house was beating me up. So.
I hope it didn't go too far.
General Mayor said,
Yeah, he's in Senegal this week, but I will pass it on. Thank you.